And I think that's what Joe Biden is going to bring to this Democratic primary season. So I think it's what I have been anticipating and have said on your show. I expect Joe would get in, and here he is. And I think he's going to add to the flavor and to the dynamic nature of this primary season.
He certainly didn't have any surprise going for him this morning when he jumped in. Everyone knew it was coming. Steve Hildebrand, I want to go to the Trump campaign. There is a Trump campaign, a Trump re-election campaign that is, I think, ignored in the way that we cover the news. You're a veteran of a successful presidential campaign. I want you to imagine yourself in a president's re-election campaign, and you're watching the incoming every day at the White House, because for any president, there's always incoming at the White House. There's always something that can affect your presidential re-election campaign as president. But look at what the Trump White House is both creating by way of its own problems with Congress on subpoenas and other things, and what's happening to it that comes to it from the outside. You have a former cabinet member now recently left the cabinet, Homeland Security Secretary. It becomes revealed that she's not allowed, was never allowed, to mention Russia to the president. It just seems like almost every hour there's something happening that is another big problem for the Trump re-election campaign.
You know, every day they seem to wake up and create their own worst nightmare. They've got a political shield. They've got a 30 to 35% base that never wavers in support for him. That being said, I can't imagine how you can handle the political gunfire that comes at you every single day by your own creation. And that's what they do, Lawrence. It's unfathomable in politics. I don't understand it, to be honest with you.
Steve, let me just stay with you on this for a second, because what I've seen with every other president, as soon as they're elected and literally on election night in their victory speeches, one of the very first things they do is they reach out to voters who did not vote for them. And they do that in their victory speeches. They then do that in their inauguration addresses, their inaugural addresses. They do it in their State of the Union addresses. I haven't seen Donald Trump once, not once, since election night. I have not seen him once try to speak publicly to a voter who did not already vote for him. How do you form a re-election campaign with a candidate who has never once attempted to pick up a new voter?
You know, he seems to only understand that you work to tear people apart, that you work to divide the country, that there's winners and losers. You know, honestly, he seems to be framing himself with the losers and that small coalition. And I don't see how, unless the Democrats really screw this up, how he can get reelected, because, as you said, he has never reached across the aisle. And that's one of Joe Biden's strengths, is he's going to have capacity to go after voters who felt a little bit disenfranchised in 2008 or 2006, I'm sorry, and to bring them back into our fold where they've been for a long time, but they just weren't courted properly while Trump was really going after them.
Jason Johnson, when you look at today as a day in the Trump re-election campaign, it's another disastrous campaign day.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing, Lawrence. There have been tons of these for Donald Trump, and he is oblivious to how bad he ends up looking. I think that the idea of a Fox legal analyst basically saying, you guys can impeach this guy, is one of the worst things that could happen. Because, look, objectively speaking, we all know that. We've seen parts of the Mueller report. We've heard the legal analysis. But what it says is there are other people at Fox who believe this. I don't think this guy was just going out on a limb. That means that there are people within the Trump camp and coalition who actually believe that we now have a president of the United States who is legitimately impeachable. And that is the most dangerous indicator that he could have. Donald Trump he's already starting 3 million votes behind. He is not in a strong position going into 2020. And if that is a belief, and if the Democrats can manage this properly and actually do an impeachment hearing, he's much weaker than I think even he could have anticipated a couple months ago.
Senator Heitkamp, no one knows more Trump voters on in this group, no one knows more Trump voters than you do. Your state voted for Donald Trump in a pretty strong way. Do you sense a loosening of the Trump grip? The next segment we're going to do is a Republican saying that the Mueller report was the breaking point for him. You just saw Judge Napolitano from Fox saying, yes, this is obstruction of justice. Is the Trump grip loosening, do you think?
I think that Trump sees two other weapons that he has: a good economy, and he'll say it's about the economy, and fear. And we know how well he plays that card. And so in rural America, the economy is not as good as it is in other parts of this country. So one of the major thrusts for this president in terms of seeking re-election and securing the unified base that we've been talking about is a good economy. That's not true in rural America, and that's something we're going to be talking about in the One Country Project. You know, we need to hold him accountable. He promised a better economy for our farmers, a better economy for rural America, and he's not delivering. And so I think he's concerned. That's why you see Xi coming to the White House. He's concerned about what the tariffs have done to rural America and to farmers, and he's got to address some of these systemic problems. But, you know, the bottom line is he would say, if he were on this show, look, I have the best economy in the history of this country, which we all know is not true, but that is going to be my shield against any of these other things that you all have been talking about. And you know, that can be a pretty persuasive argument to a lot of people. And I'm probably the minority here. I think Donald Trump could get reelected. And I think he could get reelected if we do not focus on economic challenges in the parts of the country that he is strong and where he is failing those parts of the country.
You are not alone in that opinion, because Jason Johnson is nodding here right beside me. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, well, I've always assumed that President Trump's going to get reelected.
Going to get reelected.
Yeah, most presidents get reelected in American history. The only thing that works against him, he's got weak fundamentals, right? He lost by 3 million votes. He's never been at 50% approval rating. And every single state that he won that made a difference in 2016 flipped blue in a hard way during the midterms. But at the end of the day, we see the weakness in some of the Democrats by Joe Biden's announcement today. Look, Joe Biden spent most of his announcement. You were Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years, and you spend your announcement talking about Trump. We need to get a reason to vote for you. Everybody knows why to vote against Donald Trump. And I'll be honest, if the Democrats can't figure out how to give you something to vote for, as opposed to giving you something to vote against, they won't win. I was disappointed in this announcement from Joe Biden. I expected him to be a lot more politically savvy than he was.
We're going to have to break it there. I wish we could go on with this discussion, but we've got a lot more to cover coming up in this hour. And obviously, the presidential campaign is not going away. We're all coming back to this subject. Senator Heitkamp, thank you very much for joining us. Steve Hildebrand, Jason Johnson, thank you all for starting us off tonight. Really appreciate it, Steve. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.